Somebody asked me, the United States government owes $40 trillion in its national debt. Do I have to pay any of that? How does that work? So we're going to break that down. There's three things you need to be able to understand. The first thing is, where does the debt come from? The debt comes from when the US government borrows money. It has to go to individual people, businesses, or governments to borrow that money. It is not you as an American citizen that it's borrowing from. However, it seems like maybe you are going to be responsible for it. And in a way, you are. We'll get to that. So the US government, when it goes to borrow that money, it issues bonds, and individual banks, pension funds, people, or governments, foreign governments can lend the US government money. And now what that does is it means the US government has to pay them back interest in the future. More on that in a second. Second thing, the United States government's budget is based on two different spending categories, mandatory and discretionary. The mandatory category is something like Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. Those things are written into law by Congress, and they are future promises of payments to people based on congressional law. So to change those payment processes, Congress has to change the law. The problem with that is the future obligations are outpacing the future potential tax revenues based on the productivity of the country. So the U.S. is over-promising compared to how much it's producing as a society. More on that in a second. The next thing, there's a discretionary portion of the budget, which is much smaller, although that's the one that you see in the news. It involves military spending and all kinds of other stuff. And that's the thing that politicians argue over, but it's actually not the main structural problem, although there's plenty of problems with that, and that's not the topic of discussion. The third thing is, how does this impact you? Well, the US government has to pay interest on its debt, and that comes out of the federal budget. And paying interest on the debt is like using gas in your car to just stand there in neutral. You're not going anywhere. And what's happening is the interest on the debt is taking up a larger portion each year of US federal budget statistics. So we're paying more and more money as a country to finance all the spending we did in the past. So all the people older than us, they got all their benefits, they got all the stuff that they wanted. The US government went on its misadventures and did all its stupid stuff in the past. And now everybody now and in the future, your children and grandchildren are paying for it. Additionally, when the US government goes to borrow money, it has to go to the money markets, and that increases the interest rate, or at least puts upward pressure on it, because just like when anybody buys anything, it's going to create upward pricing pressure. So the US government competes like anybody else when they have to borrow money. So let me know what questions you have. My name is Adam Scott. I'm glad you're here.